This podcast is dedicated to the celebration and preservation of the working Australian Shepherd. Your Aussie is descended from a proud and amazing lineage of hard-working ranch dogs, identified and cultivated primarily in the Wild West. Contrary to the breed name, the Australian Shepherd is actually an American breed success story. Only in America can a blue-eyed, scruffy dog rise from the dust of the American ranch to become one of the most popular breeds in the world today. The Aussie's beauty, brains, and incredible work ethic and almost empathic connection with their human charges make them unforgettable and pivotal members of the family. My goal is to help you understand this amazing breed, learn more about their heritage and their physical and mental needs so that together we can preserve the working Aussie by encouraging better breeding and better vetting of future Aussie owners, ultimately keeping Aussies with their families and out of shelters. Welcome to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. Welcome to the Instinctive Australian Shepherd podcast. This is Jacqueline Tinker, your host, and I'm going to be playing Aussie Whisperer today. We are going to do something a little bit different. I get a lot of questions on Australian Shepherd behavior, and I get a lot of people sending me questions. I also find questions on Facebook and in different groups that I'm in that people have that are super common and are repeated frequently. So I'm going to start dealing with a few of those questions in the future. Today I've got, I think, 4 or 5 that we're going to deal with. So we're going to just jump right into that now. The first question is, I need a bit of advice on my 3-month-old Aussie. We take her out to run and play multiple times a day, probably 5 or 6 at least. We're working on training and focusing. I have games that I play with her, we have lots of toys, and she gets playtime with our larger dog. But some nights she still has a lot of energy, and around 9 p.m. runs around the house like a crazy dog. I would like some suggestions on what I can do to make sure she's getting what she needs during the day, mentally and physically. Okay, so this is a common issue, a common concern, and it's also wrapped in a myth around Australian Shepherd and any dog behavior, really. You'll see people who are trying their best to help, but they have been told the wrong things for a long time as well. And so if anyone says, oh, I'm thinking about getting an Aussie, what are all the Karens on Facebook saying? They're saying, don't get an Aussie unless you can spend 20 hours a day exercising them. They need constant mental and physical stimulation, or they're going to be aggressive and tear up your house. That's a huge myth. There's a little truth to that, but there is also a lot of myth wrapped around that. So let me kind of unwrap that and explain what I'm talking about. Australian Shepherds are a high-maintenance dog. They're not an easy dog. They're great dogs. I mean, I love my Aussies, and I think once they reach that ripened, mature age of at least 3, they are difficult. But once they reach that age, oh my gosh, this is the best dog. If you've done the work and the groundwork, they are the best dogs ever. I use my Australian Shepherds on a ranch. They are working ranch dogs. They work every day. Now, I'll tell you this is another thing people think is sort of working dogs. They work all day long. They do not. They spend more time me training them than they do actually doing the work. I rotationally graze my sheep so they move around every day to a new spot, and the goats also. And my dogs move them down in the morning to whatever pen they're in or whatever place we set up fences. And then at night I bring them up. And I just do that. I don't necessarily have to do that because I have livestock guardian dogs. However, it just makes me feel better to have them up at night. Also, I am a dog trainer, so I keep them up and work the sheep in the morning before I put them out. So my dogs working ranch thing, unless we're doing something like worming, banding, vaccinating, doing hooves, that kind of thing, they work about 15 to 30 minutes twice a day. Unless we're doing one of those big projects, then that takes however long it takes, but usually they're laying down and they get up to move sheep every few minutes, so it's not really a strenuous job. The other 23 and a half hours a day, they're sleeping, playing, eating, resting, watching the stock or whatever. Right now, one of my dogs has taken up position in the barn. He's just laying with his feet out and his body in the barn, and that's where he's going to lay for probably several hours. I have dogs that'll sit there and just watch the sheep all day from a distance because they can see them. My dogs spend most of the day outside. Only when I am out available to supervise. If I'm not able to supervise, if I am on a call or a meeting, or if I have to go into town to run errands, they are put up. They're safely crated inside air conditioning so that nothing happens to them. Nobody can get to them, and I don't have to worry about something going wrong while I am gone. Dogs can have tons of things happen to them. If you're not watching, just they can get into so much trouble so easily, and it's not because they're being horrible and running around like a lunatic usually. It's just weird stuff happens. My dogs don't wear collars when they're at my place. I've had a dog almost accidentally hung because he jumped up on the high spot where we feed the cats and got caught. His collar got caught in a hook and he was dangling. Thank God I found him in time. It scared the heck out of me. So I don't leave collars on my dogs when they're in my yard because of freak things that happen, which is also why I crate them when I'm not around to supervise them. So they're not crated very often. They're usually outside. Right now I've got some in the front yard and I've got some in the backyard. And guess what they're doing? If I look out there right now, guess what they're doing? They're sleeping or laying there just watching whatever they're watching. 90% of the time my dogs are calm and sleeping and resting and being calm. So the myth is that these dogs need constant stimulation. That is a myth and can actually cause problems with your dogs. Let me explain. If you are constantly stimulating your dog, you're constantly putting them in a high adrenaline or any adrenaline state, you're actually making a little crack addict out of them. Adrenaline to dogs is like crack is to humans. They get addicted to it. So then if you start out imprinting that adrenaline state on them, you have a puppy and you're just constantly playing with it. It never gets to sleep. It's constantly being stimulated. When it's sleeping, you wake it up and play with it, and you take it outside instead of just calmly saying go potty and letting it pee and come back in and going back to sleep. You're playing with it. You're running around. You're making sure they're exercising because all these Karens have told you that you have to constantly exercise your Aussie. Whatever you constantly do with them is what you're constantly training them to do. So if that dog is adrenalized in its young puppy life, 8 hours a day, you're having that dog in some sort of adrenaline state, then that dog thinks its whole life it just gets addicted to that adrenaline and wants to be in that adrenaline state all the time. They don't get to be in that calm state. My number one training advice for any young Aussies as puppies, teach them how to be calm. Teach them to be calm. So if they're running around biting at you and playing, stop playing with them. When they're overly active, stop playing and get them to calm down. Playing with them is good, and I'm saying don't play, but when you get that dog into a high where they're really growling and they're really aggressive and they're really bitey, it needs to calm down. No biting, everything stops, and the puppy is calm. And if it can't calm down outside the crate, put it in the crate until it calms down. Let it be calm more than you let it be wild. Does that make sense? And when you're playing with them, play calmly. Don't get them into this high prey drive. Unless you're somebody who needs a dog to be in a high prey drive state, you're a professional handler or trainer, or you have competition, for some reason you need this prey drive high, that's a different story. But the average person who owns an Australian Shepherd does not need a high prey drive dog. Don't buy a high prey drive puppy or a puppy from a working bloodlines unless you are prepared to manage that prey drive. Because when they're playing, you're playing tug, or you're throwing a ball, throwing a frisbee, whatever it is, they are getting stimulation. It puts them in an adrenaline state and they get addicted to that, and then they become kind of lunatics because that kind of can put them back in that state again. So, for example, we went on a 3-month trip with all 6 of our Aussies. We had 6 Aussies at the time. We had a 5th wheel trailer, and we went around the country in that 5th wheel trailer. We went from Florida, we went to Montana and Washington and everywhere in between. Okay. So oftentimes we stayed at KOA parks because they're really great with the dogs. They always have a dog park and it's enclosed and you can let them run around. It's usually tiny, so 6 dogs can't really stretch their legs. But we would find these old fields where they told us we could run the dogs, or on old dirt roads and stuff. And we had a chuck it ball, which you just, has that little handle on it. You could flick it and the ball goes 100 miles and the dogs just love it. So I have like 3 of the Aussies were really big fetchers. They love to fetch. The other 3 love to chase the fetchers and irritate them, bite them, growl, like bark, high adrenaline activity. And I thought naively, I'm like, hey, this is going to work. This will wear them out, and then they could be in the trailer and it'll be okay. Because they didn't have a lot of moments during the day they could play because we were driving or we were, doing work and stuff like that. So they had to be calm. Well, I started to realize partway into this trip, I'm like, I don't like what I'm seeing out of these dogs. I feel their energy is really frenetic, really hyper, really, they're just getting really tense. And if I take them on a leash, they're just like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr," just this constant state of, it's driving me crazy. And I thought, you know what? It's this ball. I needed the chucket to exercise them, but as soon as we got home, that chucket went bye-bye, and I have not played ball with them since, and that has been, I believe, 3 years. Because I didn't like the behaviors I was seeing. The dogs were getting super hyperactive. They were getting just frenetic activity. It was this adrenaline activity, and it just caused them to be in this wild state in their brain. And it has damaged them permanently because if I want to go open the door to let them out, they're all like, ah, I have to really lay down, everybody be quiet. I have to overtrain now to get everybody to be calm because they have been washed in this way of this adrenaline. They've gotten a taste of that adrenaline, and so now they do whatever they need to keep themselves in that adrenaline state. So it can be a problem. You can actually create a problem by overstimulating them. So even if you think the dog really loves to chase the ball. Okay, well, how are they chasing the ball? Are they chasing the ball fast and fun and their brain is still calm? You can tell them to lay down, they'll lay down, they can come to you, they're in their right mind? Or are they in this high adrenaline state where they're not listening to you, they're obsessed, they're almost obsessed? So there's those questions you can ask yourself and just think about it. If I'm going to train with a ball, like I really like it, I think my dog really likes it, how do I do this to keep them in a calm state or bring them back down to a calm state and not allow that state to exist? And then you also need to be honestly looking at that dog saying, do they really love this, or is this a little crack addiction? Because my dogs haven't played ball for 3 years, and guess what? They don't care. They're not running around going, oh no, I miss the ball. I'm so depressed. They don't do that. They have found other dogs don't do that. Dogs are not people. They don't, if I brought that chucket out and threw the ball, guess what? They'd be right back in that adrenaline state instantly. And it's not about the ball, it's about the state of adrenaline that they're in. And you just have to feel for it and kind of understand, is it really that good for my dog to be stimulated that much? I would prefer you teach your puppies how to be calm. Teach them how to walk on a leash. Teach them how to sit down, stay, stand, and get a cookie. They'll do those things as happily as they would chase a ball if they're getting a cookie, but they're not in a high adrenaline state. I mean, you could get them that way, but you don't want to. So all these people telling you have to exercise your dog 5, 6, 10 times a day, they're not right. And they're causing problems for you. I like it when my dogs are outside because they're dogs. They should be outside as much as possible. Again, I don't leave them unsupervised out there. And, I'm watching dogs outside my front window right now, and they're just walking. And one of them, Zipper, is walking around, sniffing the ground, just walking, nothing high adrenaline. She's happy, eating grass, smiling. She's as happy as she can be. Okay? So look, don't be all depressed like, oh no, I'm not providing my dog enough, whatever. They're dogs. They sleep 12 to 14 hours a day. Okay. And I think that's probably a low number usually because pet dogs usually sleep a lot longer than that. And if they're at home, they're going to walk. If they're awake at home and they're a calm dog and they're not eating the walls because they're not in this high adrenaline state, they've learned to control themselves. They're just going to be walking around. They'll jump from this couch. They'll get on that couch. They'll lay in the sun. They'll watch out the window and look at the birds, and they're perfectly happy. I don't know if any of you are in the correct generation to remember that movie Point Break where they were adrenaline junkies. This is kind of what we're avoiding when we try to teach the puppies to be calm. And it may not be as fun because you're like, oh, I want to constantly play with my puppy for the first 6 weeks of their life. And then guess what? It gets really hard afterwards to keep up with that kind of energy because you've created some sort of really frenetic energy and you're causing issues. You're causing dogs to be more reactive. You're causing dogs to do all kinds of things. Whereas if you had kept them calm as a puppy and taught them to be calm, played with them appropriately, played in a calm manner, and stopped when they got too high in an adrenaline state, you would then find that you're going to avoid dealing with things like reactivity on the leash. You're going to avoid things like constantly pulling and not listening to you because they constantly keep themselves in this adrenaline junkie state. So we really just need to avoid that. And if you need more information about that, you're welcome to message me, and I'm happy to put together a course for you or do some private lessons with you on that. All right. The next question to me is going to have a very similar response to the last question. Here's the question. Any suggestions for jumping? My dog is an actual maniac when we go to family or friend's house or when people come over. It doesn't matter how long we make him wait in the crate, how much people ignore him, or how much we use his place command. He just loses his mind and jumps on people. Drives me nuts because when he does it to kids, he practically knocks them over. He's friendly, but his excitement is just too intense, and not everyone likes being jumped on or scratched, and people really do not like sometimes when a dog over smothers and kisses them all over the face. Okay, I'll just answer this question. Nobody ever likes to be jumped on by a dog, ever. They may say, oh, it's okay, my dog jumps on me, but they don't mean it. So you're right, this is a huge problem, and it's a dangerous problem. He's not aggressive or biting or that, but he can accidentally hurt somebody, a kid or an older person, or anybody for that matter. He can knock them down, and he could cause them injury, which this person knows this in her question. He is obviously very concerned and understands that it is a problem. That's kind of for the rest of you who think your dog's jumping on people is cute, because it's not cute. Never has been cute, it never will be cute, and it can be very dangerous behavior, as dangerous as aggression. So it needs to be handled, and this person clearly understands that. So this person has, I think, been to a dog trainer before, because they use the word place command, and that's usually somebody who's been to a dog trainer or has researched dog training or actually has cared about their dog learning some things. And they obviously have crate trained their dog, which is good. He said that they blow out of the crate and it doesn't matter. He's just a maniac. And a maniac is a very good term for this, because I can picture this dog in my head, and I'll tell you probably what happened. 100% for sure this is what happened, whether they remember it correctly or not. That dog was constantly, and possibly is still constantly, in what? A high adrenaline state. We come right back to this. The number one problem, in my opinion, with Australian Shepherds is that they are addicts to adrenaline, and if you can help them control their adrenaline, you're going to help them control their behavior. They get very easily addicted to that prey drive, to that adrenaline, and so it's very easy to keep them there, and they like it. And it's because of their past, and because it was necessary to have that kind of energy to work all day long, because they came over with the Basque Shepherds, and those are people who their dogs probably worked most of the day because they grazed sheep, and the dogs would be where the sheep were. Now, they probably weren't constantly working the entire time, because when you're grazing sheep, you just kind of let them graze and then you gather them up and move them a little bit. Regardless, they needed this kind of drive in their life. They don't need this kind of drive for most people now. So I can tell you, when that he was a puppy, they played with him and allowed him to be a wild maniac as a puppy. They allowed him to be a wild maniac currently today. The best thing would have been what I mentioned before on how teaching a puppy to control its adrenaline. Now you're going to have to go back to the beginning, and you've got a little crack addict on your hand. So it's going to be a lot harder. I'll tell you this. When you have a dog now as an adult or even as an adolescent, and you've allowed them to be this wild puppy, and when they were little, they were so cute, so you never told them no, that's going to be a problem. As my puppy, I understand this, and I empathize with you, because I really wasn't as concerned about this behavior with my dogs. Now, I don't have any maniac dogs, but my dogs would jump on people because I let them jump on me. I thought, well, I don't care if they jump on me, but that means then if they jump on me, they're going to jump on everybody else. And I realized that's just terrible behavior. Terrible, terrible behavior. And I have friends that are older, and I don't want them getting scratched and bleeding because of one of my dogs. and I don't want to knock him over and break a hip because of one of my dogs. So I decided that yes, it was actually important for them to get their feet off of me. And at some point in my life, I found it irritating as well. So I've had to go back and retrain my older dogs, and it's much harder. So retraining an older dog is way harder than training a younger dog not to do it. So with my current puppy, my youngest dog now, he's 1 now, but Flynn has been a puppy recently, and I never allowed him to put his feet on me or anyone else. And it's not even his first inclination. And I'm so proud and amazed because my dogs, I have to be like, no feet. Don't put your feet on people in advance because that's what they want to do when they meet their friends. But Flynn, I don't have to. He's been so good. Now he's becoming naughty now. I don't know if he sees the other dogs, but he's also 1, and it's typical for 1-year-olds to have some retraining. And he's still not as bad as my other dogs were when I had to teach them not to jump. So as a puppy, I wouldn't let him. I would anticipate his behavior because he's coming running towards me. What's he going to do? He's going to jump up on me because he's interested in my face. They're very in tune with your face. They want to be face to face with you. They want to lick your face. So they're going to look up at you and they're going to try and jump up. That's just a normal behavior for a puppy. So when he was coming to me, I wouldn't let him jump up. I would distract him. I'd give him a cookie and have him sit, or I'd tell him to down, or whatever it was. But before he jumped on me, he learned not to jump on me. So he never was allowed to put his feet on me. And if he did jump on me and I wasn't prepared, like I was walking and he ran up behind me and jumped on me, I would say, no feet. That's my command for my dogs. You can use whatever you want. And I would put him on the floor, like put his feet down, and then give him a cookie or a treat for having his feet down. And if his feet came up, no feet, reward for feet on the ground. And it's very simple. And the problem with Aussies is they're so cute that we don't want to discipline them because they're so cute and little and fluffy and adorable and they love you so much. And you think, oh, I don't want to be mean to my puppy. Well, you're not mean by teaching them to not hurt somebody as an adult. We have to think about this in the future. Like, what kind of dog do I want? What kind of behavior do I want my dog to do when he's an adult? And I can't allow that behavior now. So if you have the dog jumping on you, you think, okay, this is fine, but what if they're 50, 60 pounds dog? When they get older, is that going to be fine if they're not a puppy anymore? No, then you don't want that. Then guess what? The puppy can't jump either. And it's super easy, and you just substitute it for sitting. Oh, okay. If you're sitting next to me, you can get love and kisses, and I'll pet you, and you can do whatever, but you can't put your feet on me. Okay, so now that you have a maniac dog and you missed that training as a puppy, what do you do? Well, I know because I've done this with all of my dogs. Now, this dog that we're talking about in this story, he is a very high adrenaline dog. So you're going to have to do a lot more work than a person without a high adrenaline dog would have to do. Now, jumping is a high adrenaline behavior. Okay, so it's just kind of like your dog sounds like it's over the top, and there's this whole scale of adrenaline and how dogs handle it. So mine were probably like medium level adrenaline, and it was just no feet. And they learned no feet after that point when I decided I was done with having feet on me. So if they were coming to jump me, no feet, sit. Here's your cookie. Same as with the puppy. You kind of prevent the behavior if they're running and you know they're going to jump on you. You guys know when they're going to jump on you. No feet, sit down. Okay, so it's all good. And I have one dog, Harley. She's my first, well, she's not my first Aussie, but she's my first one in this bunch, I guess I could say it that way. She still gets to jump up on me and kiss me. And not jump up, only my hand is out, straight out from my body. She can put her paws on my hand, on my arm. And that's what she's allowed to do. She's just unique, and I know that she has that problem, and I just have to be careful she's not around people that she could hurt if she jumps on them. And it's just a softness in me. It's a weakness in me, not allowing her to jump and nobody else. And I'm working at it. Like, she doesn't get to jump like she used to, and she has to only do it when she's allowed to do it. But I don't recommend that because it's very confusing for the dog, especially if they get excited because they see somebody they just love. So you go back to the beginning and you tell them no feet. And it's the same as with the puppy. You try to prevent them from jumping, and if they do jump, get off. No feet. You push them off of you. You either use a leash to pull them off of you. You take their paws and put them on the ground. There's no violence. There's no aggression. There's nothing that you need to do that's mean to teach them no feet. But you also need to work on the adrenaline control too. And so whenever they get up into a high adrenaline state, you need to learn them to calm down. There is an activity called sit on the dog. And it's a weird, I don't know why they named it sit on the dog because you're not sitting on the dog, but maybe it's so that you remember the activity. Basically, it's very simple. You have your dog on a leash, and wherever you are, the dog kind of follows you around the house. You can do it for a few minutes at a time, or you can kind of stretch it out to be all day where the dog is with you. But you have the dog next to you on a chair. You sit on the leash. You don't sit on the dog. You sit on the leash. You give them enough leash so that they can turn around and stand up and sit down. And then you sit on that leash, and that dog has to stay calm. That's the whole exercise. They can sit, they can down, but they have to stay calm. And as soon as they're calm, there needs to be a calm behavior, a calm reward. So a lot of people make this mistake when they're training their dogs. They come in and they're like stock dog people. They do it as they're coming for herding lessons too. We work really hard in the pen to make sure the dog remains calm. Much of my herding lessons are teaching dogs to remain calm around stock. They need a little adrenaline, but they need to be able to control that adrenaline and remain calm for 90% of the time. And then we come out of the lesson and they're like, oh my God, good dog, yeah, ha, ha. And they're jumping up and down, and the dog is jumping up and down. I'm like, wait a minute, you just undid all the work we did in there, keeping them calm. So I always tell people when you praise your dog in the situation, when you're trying to teach a dog to be calm, the praise needs to be calm. There's no excitement in your praise. It's good dog, here's your cookie. Good dog, good dog. Your voice is calm. You're calm. The dog is obviously getting praises. You can pet them as long as they're calm. So this kind of activity, sit on the dog, where you have sit on the leash and the dog has to stay calm and be around you. And then eventually they're going to lay down. It may take a while depending on how much of a maniac you have allowed your dog to become, but they'll eventually lay down. And what I do in this exercise, when they lay down, I either just drop a cookie on the floor. I don't make them look at me like, here's your cookie, and then all of a sudden the dog's jumping up and down again. That's the opposite of what we're trying to do. And so the dog is doing what you ask them to do. They're calm. You don't tell them to lay down. When you're doing sit on the dog, you don't tell them to lay down. You're waiting for them to be calm. You're not really paying attention to them. You're watching TV, or you're eating dinner, or you're talking to a friend, or you're working at your computer. You're just doing your life, and the dog is supposed to be doing life with you, but calmly. So this dog, as soon as it settles down, I might drop a cookie, just drop it on the ground and go back to work. Depending on how the dog reacts. Some dogs, if you start talking to them, they just lose it, and they're just so excited. Well, if they're going to do that, you can't use that as a reward, because that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. Right? We're trying to teach this dog to chill out. So when they're chilling out, you can ignore them because they don't really need reinforcement. If they're behaving, that's good. As soon as you get up from the chair, it needs to be calm. You don't jump up and go, ah! You're just like, dog, that'll do. Good dog. And you just get up calmly, or you take the leash off the dog without them noticing and let them just continue to lay there. And when they get up, they can just walk away calmly. There's a lot of ways to do this, but you need to think in your head, calm. This is like a meditation. You're teaching your dog to be calm. And so everything you do, your praise needs to be calm, your reward needs to be calm, you need to be calm. And then this dog is learning to soothe itself. It cannot be, and some people might be, oh, that sounds mean. That's not mean. It cannot be a good feeling to be in a high adrenaline, agitated state at all times. That does not feel good. As a human, when you're doing things that are like highly stressful, that doesn't feel good. Getting into an argument, fighting with someone on Facebook, getting into it with your coworkers, having deadlines shoved down your throat that you can't make, and you're in this constant frenetic activity. That doesn't feel good. Calm feels good to people. It's meditative. It's good for you. Calm feels good to dogs. And dogs are a mirror to people. So also look at your life too and see, oh, do I need to find some more calm in my life? Take a breath, right? Like, think about that. Your dog may be showing you that you need calm in your life too. Okay. Another thing you can do. So this person also said that their dog, doesn't matter if they make him wait in his crate. So I'm guessing that dog is, you could probably picture it in your head too, flying out of his crate as soon as he opens the door to the crate. I don't allow that with my dogs, because so sooner or later they're going to jam your finger, they're going to smack the crate against you, and it's going to hurt. I make them stay in their crate until I tell them to come out. So therefore I can open the door. My fingers are not in the mechanism. They're not going to bust up my hand when they come flying out the crate. Okay, you can come out, but you need to come out calmly. And my dogs, even if I open the door and I haven't told them to wait, they can come out as long as it's calm. They step out of their crate calmly and they just walk on down the thing. That's something you can do too. Practice that. Practice having them in their crate, just like their place command. They can stay in their crate with the door open and just chill, and then call them out of their crate. You can then teach them to go in their crate from a distance. You can play games with them without it being maniacal. The other mistake I'm guessing is being made on the place command with this dog would be that if you're on the place command, he's staying there while you're watching TV or whatever, and then you have a release command like okay, or that'll do, or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, and the dog goes flying off the place command. That is the opposite of the purpose of the place command. Again, remember, calm. These dogs need to be calm, and they can actually teach you to have a better centered life if you learn to be calm with them. Okay, next question. So I think I made an oopsie with my dog. He was a pandemic puppy, and I worked from home, so I was always there. Now he's attached to me and won't listen to anybody but me, and if I leave the room, he follows me and has to be with me all the time. Not sure how to combat this. I've thought about enrolling him in doggy daycare while I'm at work to get him socialized. I'm at a loss. My boyfriend doesn't like him because he doesn't listen to the boyfriend. He listens only to me. Okay, well, let's talk about the boyfriend situation and then him not listening to anybody but you. That is called being an Australian Shepherd. There is nothing pandemic problematic that caused this particular behavior, because Aussies are a one-person dog. It is in the breed standard. They are reserved with strangers, and I don't know how much of a stranger your boyfriend is or not, but I'll tell you this. I am married. I have 6 Aussies. My Aussies I have 6 Aussies and my husband has one, and that dog will only listen to him. Drives me crazy because I'm the one that feeds her and I'm the one that takes care of her for the most part, but she is attached only to him and she barely listens to me. It irritates me because, I'm trying to take care of stuff and I'm the one that takes care of the dogs and she doesn't listen to me. But she'll listen to my husband. She'll do whatever he tells her to do because she is his dog, and she has chosen him. He is her person, and she has decided very strongly. My dogs, when I am around, won't listen to Dwayne, my husband. They won't listen to him. He has learned to just go with it. It used to make him frustrated as well, but I'm like, look, it's just how they are. I feed them. I take them to stock. They are my dog. They have chosen me. Now I have our last puppy, Flynn. He'll listen to both of us just about equally. I have probably a little bit more influence over him just because I spend more time with them. But that is just an Aussie thing. And so your boyfriend is just going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to explain it to him and say, look, if you want your own dog, get your own Aussie, because then they'll listen to you and they won't listen to me. And so to me, it's a little bit of a warning flag as the boyfriend goes, but it could just be he's being a young guy. Because guys tend to be more sensitive to that kind of stuff than women do in general. I'm just generalizing. So if he's okay with, if this is a boyfriend you want to spend some time with, or you think there might be a future here with this guy, then you can teach your dog to tolerate him. And, have him feed the dog, have him bring cookies to the dog, have him, like, have the dog learn some tricks and sit with him. And, he's always going to be your dog. He will not transition, and he will not appreciate the boyfriend ever as much as he appreciates you. I had an Aussie when I was dating my husband, and he is kind of funny. He when we first met and went out, the first date and everything, we were at my grandparents' house, which was where my Aussie lived at the time when I was in college. And Jesse, my Aussie Jesse, didn't appreciate my husband coming over, and just didn't appreciate it. But he got to know him, and then he got to like him, and he would, eventually be friends with my husband. Well, while we were still dating, I had an apartment, and the little backdoor patio was on the ground level, and there was a big area where he could go and go to the bathroom, and I never had him on a leash because I just never had my Aussies on leashes back in those days because they didn't require it. Well, I had to work a double shift. I was a 911 dispatcher in college. And so I asked my husband, well, my boyfriend at the time, and asked him to go let Jesse out to go to the bathroom. So he did. And he just opened the door because he saw me do that. And Jesse went out, and it wasn't in a fenced yard or anything. He looked at my husband, or my boyfriend at the time, Dwayne, and he took off running. And Dwayne was like, oh no, I'm going to tell my girlfriend that I lost her dog. And he knew how much this dog meant to me. And so he got in his truck and drove around. And he'd see Jesse every now and then. He'd say, Jesse. And so Jesse just kept running off from him. And he was like, oh no, he couldn't find him. And so he went back to the apartment to lock up everything before he had to come tell me that he had lost my dog. And there was Jesse sitting on the patio waiting to be let in. He just wanted Dwayne to know that he was not his dog and he was not under his authority. And that's how Aussies are. It's part of the breed. So you can explain that to your boyfriend, and hopefully he'll make the effort to try to be nice to your dog. As far as the pandemic puppy, you didn't make a mistake. It is what it is, but that dog loved every second of being home with you because an Aussie would live in your pocket if they could fit, because that's who they are. They are also very attached to people. Mine follow me around everywhere I go, and they're not pandemic puppies per se. They just follow me into the bathroom. They follow me out of the bathroom. All six would try and get in the bathroom with me if they could, but that would drive me crazy. And they just, everything is about what I am doing for them, and they want to be with me every second of the day. If they're outside, they want to be inside with me. If I go outside, they'll lose their mind if they can't go outside with me. That is also just being an Aussie. So you can teach him, you're going to have to teach him how to be on by himself, be in a crate. And this is why I crate train my dogs. And this is why, I like to have more than one dog. I know not everybody can have more than one dog because they kind of keep each other company. You could get a cat, or you could just try the radio. There's a lot of things you can do to try and get the dog used to you not being there when you go to work. Leave them for 5 minutes at a time, then come back. Leave them for an hour, then leave them for 15 minutes, and vary the time you are away from them, and teaching them that you're always going to come back to them. That's just what they need to know if he hasn't learned that already. It's going to take a little bit more time because if you didn't crate train him and do this work with him as a youngster, you're going to have to do it now. And you're going to just have to take your time in letting him know that he can trust you, that you're going to come back. And good luck with that one because it might take a little time. As far as the daycare, the question was, you thought about enrolling him in doggy daycare to get him socialized. Well, most doggy daycares will not take your dog if he is not already socialized, unless you're taking him to a doggy daycare that is also training and doing some training with him, which would be highly recommended. I have mixed feelings about doggy daycare. I think for some dogs it's good for them. I think for others it's not. And so you just need to try and find out if it's going to work for your dog's temperament. And if your dog doesn't get along with other dogs now, they probably won't accept you at doggy daycare. So I would just check into that. If it makes you feel better, do it. If not, my dogs don't go to doggy daycare, and I currently work from home most of the time. But so they're with me a lot. However, they have been trained and socialized, or I don't like that word socialized because it doesn't really mean much, but they have been trained to be in their crates, and when I leave, and they sometimes they'll all get together and howl, but I live in the country so nobody cares. They'll howl for like 5 minutes because they're one of them starts it, and then they all do it because that's one of the down parts of having so many dogs, that they like to work each other up and communicate so that they're not alone. They don't feel alone. All my dogs are crated, with another buddy, or not in the same crate, but in the same room so they can see each other, so they know they're not alone. But they don't have a problem with it because I trained that early on, that they would be okay being in a crate and being left for a little while. So good luck to you getting back to work, and I hope that it works out well with you and your boyfriend. But this is all you didn't do this. This is Aussie behavior. This is how they are. You just have to teach them to work with how you are and how your life works, and they will fit in and they will blend into your lifestyle as long as you train them. Okay, well, that's the end of the question and answer period. I hope you enjoyed this new format. I think it's kind of fun. I really enjoyed it. If you have any other questions you would like me to answer, you can reach out to me at theinstinctiveaussie.com or the Instinctive Australian Shepherd podcast group on Facebook. I would love to answer your questions and help you out with any Aussie doggy related things. And if you would like private lessons or a virtual lesson, you can reach out to me and we can make that happen. Enjoy your Aussies until the next time we meet, and I will see you down the road.
Hey, and that's the show today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you really enjoyed it and got to learn something about this amazing breed, the Australian Shepherd. Join us on Facebook. We have a private group called the Instinctive Australian Shepherd. Join the group and join the conversation there. You can also find us online at theinstinctiveaussie.com. That's where you'll find all the show notes, the links to anything we talked about this show, and all of our past episodes. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you find your favorite podcasts, and that way you'll be the first ones to know as soon as an episode is uploaded. All right, everyone, I'll see you down the road.